Welcome to the F1 Debate Show. We discuss further motorsport injury preventions. We discuss the Hungary teams and drivers ahead of the Monaco Grand Prix. A few weeks ago now, British Formula 4 driver Billy Monger suffered a life-changing event at Donington Park when he went into the back of the stationary car of Patrick Palmer, and the motorsport world was shocked to hear that the teenager had to have both legs amputated after the injury. The motorsport world, drivers such as Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen were sending money to Billy Monger and for himself for his recovery. News was spread to the Formula 1 paddock and hope that injuries like this don't happen in Formula 1 or any motorsport for that matter. And the FIA safety director from France, Laurent Marquez, has been in touch with the Formula 1 teams ahead of this weekend's Monaco Grand Prix, wanting to change the Formula 1 structure and the safety along with the FOM, which means that the RAS, the rear impact system, which is at the rear of the car near where the ARS charging point is shown on the car, basically so that's put at a less aggressive stance. So what he has stated is that it can protrude no more than 45 millimeters from the nose of the RAS to the RIS to the base. This means that the RAS will be less aggressive, which just means that if someone will go into the back of the car, it'll crumble and it won't cause any injury. Basically what it is, it's near the ARS charging point. It's like a big kind of stick out of the car. So if you think about it, it does sound quite dangerous putting it like that way. And obviously the legs are on the car, the chassis at the front are the nose, and in front of the front wheels, the front tires, it is the chassis isn't very strong, which means that it will crumble and there'll be no impact for the drivers. So we won't see any injuries like what Johnny Herbert sustained at the British Grand Prix again when he crashed into the wall with thinking that he'd lost his legs. There'll be no other worries about that, but to make the rear of the car less aggressive so things like that don't happen again. As we know, because Billy Monger went into the back of the car and that's what caused the problem. Safety in Formula 1 has been a massive talking point. I don't think we'll ever stop talking about this, but this is a massive thing as well. They need to get this changed straight away so things like that don't happen again, because unfortunately we have seen what can happen if the cars aren't changed. And this isn't just Formula 1, this is all motorsport categories. It's Formula 4. It needs to be changed, and obviously all categories, because there's people putting their lives at line. So with this being changed for the Monaco Grand Prix and for the future, it hopes to prevent injuries like this happening in Formula 1 and motorsport in general, as we do not want to see that. And obviously Billy Monger himself in interviews has been very strong, saying like this, that something has to change in, as I say, Formula 1 and motorsport in general. So it's definitely a massive topic, and obviously we'll be getting Jordan's opinion, and hopefully we can get your opinion, so please leave them down in the comment section below about things like this. Now basically the FIA and the FOM work on safety a lot more, and especially after this crash and things like that happened, it's something that needs to be changed. So the rear of the car will need to be made more safer. The chassis behind, as I say, on the RAS needs to be more and less aggressive, written in by Laurent Marquez, who used to work with Toro Rosso, so again he knows his stuff. It needs to be changed so that injuries like this will not happen. We'd like to see drivers escape Formula 1 without injury. Obviously what happened to Billy Monger was a massive shock and very scary and not a common thing, but if we can prevent things like this happening, that's obviously great if for motorsport. Safety will always improve, and like we've just said, we've said in previous episodes, safety will always be worked on. Obviously the FOM is always working on safety since we've had many crashes, and obviously unfortunately loss of life back in 2014. It will always be worked on. So that is the news coming out of Monaco. That is a big thing. Obviously Autosport have been on it as well, along with the FIA and the FOM, and obviously Formula 1 will be working on this. The Formula 1 teams will have to change it, but it is definitely mandatory that the measurements that I've just told you, that the measurements put in place by the FOM will have to be on the Formula 1 cars to make Formula 1 safer, and basically to prevent any injury like we saw with Billy Monger happening again. So the next topic I'm going to go on to is the Monaco Grand Prix. Now, obviously we covered that in the GP preview show, but I'm going to go into more detail about it in this time. And the first person we're going to talk about is Jenson Button. Now, obviously we saw him in the press conference. We saw him on Thursday in the practice sessions, and basically he is very happy to be there. Basically he says that obviously it's great to be back. Obviously he's been out of the sport for about half a year now. The biggest thing that he says he hasn't done in terms of training, he hasn't been in the Formula 1 car. He's been training, he's been doing triathlons and things like that, but it's his first time in the car. The McLaren 2017, he said he was always there. And then the question was, have you seen the car? Have you seen it racing? And he was like, yeah. And then there was a bit of laughing, a bit of chuckling, obviously going on because of the car's pretty bad. But obviously, there's JB in the car, no one else, so he should be able to get more results, what he wants out of it. We discussed in the GP preview show, one of the big topics that we both mentioned was obviously JB. This is kind of his first and only time in the car. Do you think his mentality will change? I mean, he is very, very, very happy to be there. He says it's one of the best races he could head into, and he has in a very long time, because he's just so relaxed, he's so refreshed. But when I say relaxed, I mean he's relaxed about the situation at the moment. When it comes to the nitty-gritty part, obviously the qualifying and obviously the race, his mentality will change, and he'll be there in the car, and obviously we want to get the best result he can out of it.
They haven't got the tyres ready. The tyres aren't ready. Ricciardo is sat there waiting. Did he make the call? Did the team make the call? Whoever made the call, the tyres weren't ready. Super soft tyres going on. Hamilton now makes his way around Anthony Nose, the final corner. Ricciardo put in a really decent lap, but is it going to be enough to come out of the pits and lead this Grand Prix? I rather get the feeling that it's going to be tight one. Here comes the Mercedes of Lewis Hamilton. Ricciardo on the inside. Hamilton takes the lead, but Ricciardo of course has that inside line into Sandoval. Hamilton now leads after a pit stop that saw Daniel Ricciardo sat stranded waiting for his tyres.
I was called in the box. I didn't make the call. I got called, so they should have been ready.
The big word that was chucked around in the press conference was unfinished business. Now, obviously, as you know, what happened last year, which was Red Bull let him down. As we said in the GT preview show, one of the biggest times, well, actually, yes, probably the biggest time that Red Bull have ever let one of their drivers down. I always remember one of the big ones was in 2013, Silverstone, obviously with Sebastian Vettel's gearbox failure. Obviously, I know it's a gearbox failure, and again, those kind of things can't be happening. It's not as big as a human error, but I just remember that being massive, and obviously Red Bull were the team on top at that time. But last year, yeah, obviously, so the tyres weren't there. It became about a 12 to 15 second pit stop, absolutely detrimental to his race, and it was because he came out battling Lewis Hamilton. Obviously couldn't sustain it after he was on newer set, obviously worn in and that to the track. Obviously he took the win. Daniel Ricciardo finished in second, Sebastian Vettel in third, and obviously Ricciardo one of the only times he wasn't smiling. Anyway, so the word unfinished business was chucked around a lot, basically because he is here to right that wrong. And I know it sounds strange because he wasn't at fault. He's probably thinking, obviously the team's let me down. It wasn't really down to me. It's just one of those things, really. But obviously, he definitely wants to right that wrong. He got pole position last year. Let's go and see if he can get that. Let's see if he can do that in qualifying. And obviously, let's hope that he gets a great result in the race. But obviously, to think that last year he went from first, and no fault of his own, obviously, he was doing a really good race. No fault of his own, he went down to second place due to a pit stop error. So obviously, Red Bull definitely have their minds focused on let's get Daniel his best position. Obviously, Max Verstappen, as we all remember, crashed out last year. He crashed on the Saturday, and he also crashed on the Sunday. Two very similar types of crashes. They were both into the barrier. Again, just what was called a rookie mistake on things like the Autosport magazine and things like that. Just called a rookie mistake, and obviously not very good after his high of Spain. That definitely wasn't very good. So he'll want to be right in that because he crashed in 2015. I remember going into Sandoval. He crashed in 2016 twice, once in qualifying and once in the race. So technically, literally, Max Verstappen hasn't finished the Monaco Grand Prix. He'll be wanting to change that because he didn't do the race in 2015 and he didn't obviously finish last year. So he'll be wanting to change that. So basically, Red Bull's kind of got Monaco's kind of got a bit of a grey cloud around for Red Bull, obviously, which is strange because obviously Max and Daniel are from there. They have houses there. They grew up there. So really, it's a home race to a lot of drivers as well. But it's a home race for Max and it's a home race for Daniel. So they'll definitely be wanting to right that wrong. So obviously the massive person with the push of Daniel Ricciardo, and I reckon that's where all the pressure will go to at that time. But there's also one more thing that I wanted to mention. I wanted to mention this in the GT preview show, and I know they're not in Formula One at this time, but the team that I always think of when we come to Monaco is Manor. Now, obviously, Manor, as you know, Man in Russia, they aren't in Formula One anymore. They folded, unfortunately, at the start of the season. Now, I'll tell you why I always think of this as their race. Obviously because of Joe Bianchi. He scored Manna's first points in Formula 1, which is an absolutely amazing thing. Going into Rascas, that overtake on the Caterham, got their first point in Formula 1, a stat that would stand for more than 2 years, obviously, until Pascal Wehrlein matched it in the 2016 Austrian Grand Prix. And that's the reason that I always think of that. And obviously, in terms of tribute, and obviously I know that John will agree as well, we've discussed it at length all the time, that is obviously that is the best tribute that we can think. Obviously you think, when do we remember Jules? Do you remember him on his birthday? Do we associate Hungary with him? Do we associate Japan with him? We at the F1 Debate Show like to associate Jules with Monaco. Obviously an amazing drive from him, and especially people like Pascal Wehrlein, who obviously have driven for Manor in the past, obviously drove for Manor last year as well, their last season in Formula 1. They'll definitely want to remember that. That's where we remember it as well. Obviously an absolutely amazing feat by that, because it is a great track. And obviously for the rookie drivers who have never driven this track, I remember like Esteban Ocon, there was a lot of talk about him in the press conference not driven this track, obviously along with other people as well, Lance Stroll, who haven't done this track. If you can get it right, obviously it will pay off in the long run, because it's a jewel in the crown. It's the one that all of them want to win. They all want to do very well in the Monaco Grand Prix, which is great. Obviously a very exciting race to do. And by the way, can I just say, round 6, that's the thing. I mean, we've flown through this season. We really have. Obviously it only felt like yesterday that we were in Australia. It only felt like yesterday that obviously like me and Jordan were getting up very early morning to watch the Australian Grand Prix. It only felt like yesterday that we were watching like the Bahrain Grand Prix. It's flown around so much. And obviously the Monaco Grand Prix is really great. It starts off, it's like one of the finals, really. It's like a football final. It's like the World Cup final. It's the very special. No, it's a derby. That's what it's like. It's like you think about like a football season, and Monaco is the derby. It's the one that they all want to win. It's the one that they all want to do really well at, and it's really exciting to think. Obviously, who will be standing on the Prince Albert podium? Will it be someone that's done there before? Will it be Lewis Hamilton? Will it be Daniel Ricciardo? Obviously, he was thinking it would be last year after qualified, but it wasn't. Will it be him? Will it be Verstappen? Who will be standing on that podium? Will it be a new driver, or will it be one of the 3 drivers we've seen before? Obviously, Valtteri Bottas, Sebastian Vettel, or Lewis Hamilton, the 3 victors of 2016. It's very exciting to think what will happen on Sunday, but we'll have to wait and find out. Anyway, guys, so obviously, it has been a very short F1 Debate Show. John is not with us. Obviously, he's had other things to attend to. Just one quick thing on the subject of him. We went out Wednesday night to watch the Europa League final, and he was he caught me. He said, "I have a present for you," in the car. So I was like, "Oh, I can't wait for this. What's it going to be? What is it going to be?" And it was this. Honestly, I was so excited to get this. It was the Lewis Hamilton Monster Drink. Honestly, I'm not joking. I was so happy to get this, because they've been so hard to get. They really have. So, I was very excited to get that from him. I actually picked up a few more at the shop, but yeah, they're very hard to get. We hope you have them out there, but obviously, I'm sure they'll come on sale soon. And they look really nice. I mean, they've got a nice little feel to them, like the Rossi ones. Obviously, the MotoGP champion. Very nice design. Obviously, you've got that little kind of like cowboy design, or the 44. Obviously, in the back, Team Lewis Hamilton. Obviously, what it says. Just read out if you haven't actually read it. It says, "When you're the 3-time world champion Lewis Hamilton, life moves at 15,000 RPM and 200 miles an hour. A man who consists in a world of milliseconds demands a drink that can keep up." When we partnered with Lewis Hamilton to create 44, our R&D team worked flat out with the engineers to make the quickest monster ever. Light, crisp, refreshing, and with a last finish, it gets you out front and pulling away. So it's average, and obviously I don't know what Valentino Rossi will be thinking about that. He'll probably be thinking, well, what about my drink? Is my drink not the fastest? But obviously fantastic from him. And yeah, that was Lewis Hamilton's new drink in Formula 1. Anyway, guys, so thank you very much for watching the F1 Debate Show. Please make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't been with us before. Make sure to check out the GP Preview Show, which came out on Wednesday this time. Obviously, the only time we'll do that, because obviously, as you know, the practice session started on Thursday. So obviously, next GP Preview Show, round 7 in Canada, and obviously then onwards will be on a Thursday at 12 GMT. Basically, we just did it last time, as I say, because of practice on the Thursday in Monaco. So thank you very much for watching. We hope you can stick around for more of the season with us. Yeah, and until next time, see you later.
See you later.